So this lesson is accompanying my second week of my Just Try It class. And in this lesson, we are trimming our bowls that we made in our first class. So for this class, we're going to be using some tools, some chopsticks to figure out the depth of our pot. We're going to be using this trimming tool and this square trimming tool and this pin tool and a flexible red rib. So to tell when your pot's ready to trim, you're going to pick it up and you're going to feel if it feels kind of like hard cheese, almost like Parmesan. Because if it's too soft, it's going to misshape when you trim it, and it's going to be just a lot harder to manage. So once you've figured out that it's ready to trim, then we want to figure out the thickness of your bottom of your bowl so you can make sure that you don't trim through it when you're trimming. So I'm going to take these chopsticks and I'm going to measure the depth of the pot. So the way you do this is you put your chopstick here and you just get a pen and you measure the bottom of the chopstick at the middle of your pot, and then you take it to the outside and you measure the bottom of that. And if you look at that, that's showing I have about 1/4 of an inch that I can trim. Okay, so once you figured out the depth of your pot, I always kind of like try to figure out where the foot's gonna go. So I will look at the inside of my pot. Kind of, if you remember geometry of two planes, there's one plane and there's another plane. So where your both base is and where your wall is, I put my pin tool down and I'll just put a little pin prick through it, and then I'll bring it in, and that tells me how far in to bring my foot. And then, so we trim our bowls on these foam mats, and mainly it's so you can go all the way down to the edge when you're trimming. And you can get these mats, are just attached to a bat at any ceramic store. So then we have to center this before we start trimming. So the way to center is I'll get my wheel going. We want to push it away from where it's hitting. So it's hitting there, right there. So I'm going to turn my wheel around and I'm going to just push it towards this direction. And then I'm going to move it a little bit more. See how it's not touching? It's touching. I'm going to just push it out. It's not touching. Now it's pretty much touching evenly all around. Because it's on the foam, I'll use just a jar lid to hold it down. It distributes my weight of my finger. And I'm gonna start with this tool, and I'm just gonna start digging into where I've got that little pin. So I'm just gonna let the wheel go around, and I'm gonna bring it in to establish the foot. And I'm angling the foot in like this. And the main reason I'm doing that is so when I'm glazing, I have something to hold on to. And then I'm going to take the other tool and I'm going to start trimming the bowl shape. So I'm going to go in at the top right here, and then I'm just going to bring it down. And then you can tap it to see how much more you have. So I want it to have kind of a higher pitch sound. And if you notice, my hands are working together. So my thumb is resting on this thumb. My fingers are in the middle here, and I have kind of an L shape going. And then I'm holding the tool with my pointer finger just to give it extra strength. And I can go all the way down to the bat if I want to. And then I'll stop. Starting to have a higher pitched. And I know nobody wants to do this, but I'll always tell people to pick it up, because you have to recenter it and assess. So that feels pretty good to me. The wall thickness, it doesn't feel like it's too thick anymore. So then I'm gonna just recenter it. And then we're gonna work on the foot. So I'll take this tool, and again, I'm gonna give the strength by putting my pointer finger there. I'm gonna put my 2 fingers inside. My thumbs are touching each other, and I'm just gonna dig this in. And that's creating the inside of the bowl. And I always want my foot for bowls to kind of have a curvature, so it's almost like this bowl shape is continuing through the foot. So if I almost like pick the foot up, you would have like a continuing line from the bowl. And then I'll just start going out. And you can switch to this tool once you kind of get it defined. And again, my hands are working together. And we did a test to see like how thick this was, and it wasn't too thick. It was like 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just gonna tap it. And I'm just going back and forth with this tool. Listening for that higher pitch that tells me I'm to the edge. And then if it starts to give it all, stop, because you're really close to the edge. And then to make sure that it's gonna sit okay, you wanna make sure that this middle part is lower than your foot. So I'm just gonna take my chopstick and put it across, and there should be a gap, which there is, so that means it won't touch the floor of my on the table. I might take just a little bit more off here. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is just push any grog that came out back in, you know, kind of shine up the outside, burnish it. And I'll do the same thing with like the foot. Just folding my rib over, burnishing it. Does 2 things, you know, makes it a little bit nicer looking, and it won't scratch your countertop. And then I'm just gonna smooth this out in here. And then if you don't have a name stamp, and if sometimes I'll just take a little bit of water and just smooth that out. So if you don't have a name stamp, you're just gonna take your pin tool, or you can use a pen if you want to. And I usually use the dull side of it, or this little hook part. And I'll put a piece of plastic. I'm just gonna put a piece of plastic down, push it down, and then I'm just gonna write my name. And then it doesn't have any burrs on it when I pull it up. And then you're gonna put it over on the shelf to dry and be fired, and go into your next pot.